There is a moment in a song. You know the one. A note lands somewhere it shouldn't. A voice cracks at exactly the right second. And suddenly, a wave moves down your arms, up the back of your neck, across your scalp. You didn't choose that reaction. Your skin just did something on its own. Charles Darwin felt it too. Sitting in King's College Chapel, listening to a choir, he wrote that the music gave him such intense pleasure that his backbone would sometimes shiver. One of the most rational scientists in history, reduced to goosebumps by a hymn. Scientists have a name for this. They call it frisson. The term was coined by psychologist John Sloboda in 1991, borrowed from the French word for shiver. And here is the strange part. The reaction happening on your skin right now is not new. It is not designed for music at all. It is designed for danger. Every hair on your arms sits inside a tiny muscle. When that muscle contracts, the hair stands up. Scientists call this piloerection. Your distant ancestors were covered in far more hair than you are, and this reaction served a real purpose. It trapped a thin layer of warm air near the skin, and it made a threatened animal look larger to a predator. Fear triggered it. Cold triggered it. Both meant the same thing to an ancient body. Something is wrong. Prepare yourself. That circuitry never went away. You are far less hairy than your ancestors. But the muscles are still there, still wired to the same alarm system. So why does a violin trigger the same response as a growling animal once did? Musicologist David Huron has spent years studying exactly this question. His research proposes something called the ITPRA theory, which breaks down what happens in your brain in the seconds around a musical surprise. First comes imagination, your brain guessing where the music might go. Then tension as the moment approaches. Then the sound actually arrives. And here is where it gets interesting. Your brain has a fast, primitive reaction system that responds to sudden or unexpected sound the same way it would respond to a threat, a scream, a crash, a voice that suddenly leaps into a register you didn't expect. That system fires first, before you've had time to think. It sounds an alarm, but almost instantly, a slower, smarter part of your brain catches up. It assesses the situation properly and delivers a verdict. This isn't dangerous. It's just music. That collision is the chill, a genuine fear signal, immediately overruled by safety. Huron calls this contrastive valence. The pleasure comes specifically from the gap between the alarm and the all clear. Think about a jump scare in a movie. Something leaps onto the screen. Your whole body flinches before you've consciously registered what it was. And then, half a second later, your brain catches up. It's just a movie. That flood of relief right after the flinch. That's the same mechanism. Music does the quieter version of that, dozens of times inside a single song. Your body prepared for a threat that was never coming, and the release of that tension is what you feel as a shiver down your spine. This is why the moments that give people chills are rarely gentle. They are key changes, unexpected key changes. A voice suddenly rising above the rest of the choir. A single sustained note that arrives later than your brain predicted. You felt this without ever knowing the mechanism behind it. The moment in a favorite song where the volume drops to almost nothing, and you brace without realizing it, and then the chorus crashes back in louder than you expected. Or a singer holding a note just one beat longer than felt comfortable, right at the edge of your patience, before finally releasing it. Your nervous system briefly treats each of these like a small emergency, then stands down. Neuroimaging research backs this up. When people experience musical chills, the same brain regions light up as when they eat food they crave, or experience pleasure from other biologically rewarding stimuli. Your brain is not inventing a new pleasure center for music. It is borrowing the wiring from systems built for far older forms of survival. Reward circuits shaped by food and safety, repurposed by sound. Not everyone feels this, though. Studies estimate that somewhere between half and roughly 80% of people experience frisson, depending on the study and how it's measured. Researchers have also found that people who score higher on the personality trait known as openness to experience are more likely to report chills regularly, and there is real evidence the tendency runs in families. Researchers at the Netherlands Twin Register studied over 14,000 twins and found that genetics explains roughly 36% of the difference in how prone someone is to aesthetic chills. The same research found women reported the experience more often than men. So if your sibling tears up at the same song that leaves you unmoved, that's not a difference in taste. It may be a measurable difference in wiring, inherited the same way eye color is. Researchers have also described chills as one of the few emotional responses that looks remarkably similar across completely unconnected cultures. People in radically different musical traditions, with no shared history, still report the same shiver at the same kind of musical surprise. That consistency is part of why some scientists now treat chills as a kind of universal signature of the human nervous system, not a quirk of any one culture's music. So if a song has never given you chills, that's not a failure of taste. It may simply be a different wiring of a very old alarm system. Here's what makes this genuinely strange to sit with. The most emotionally moving moment in a song, the one that makes you replay it just to feel that shiver again, is your ancient threat detector, misfiring in the safest possible way. A system built to keep your ancestors alive is now the reason you get chills from a chorus. Your body still thinks something enormous just happened. And in a way, it did. You just didn't need to run. Think about how strange that trait actually is. An alarm system built over hundreds of thousands of years, refined by every ancestor who survived a real threat by trusting it, has been quietly repurposed by your brain into one of the most reliable sources of pleasure you have. You didn't design that. Nobody did. It's simply what was lying around in your nervous system when humans started making music, and your body reached for the nearest wiring that could make sense of the intensity. The next time a song gives you that shiver, notice it. That's not just emotion. That's a several 100,000-year-old alarm system going off and immediately being told it's safe. If knowing that makes music hit differently, you might like exactly the kind of thing this channel keeps digging into. Your ancient brain already reacted to that idea. All that's left is one small, deliberate follow-through. The subscribe button right there.